Just show the title card, you all know what this is. Series 18 was the second series of Thomas the Tank Engine to be head-written by Andrew Brenner, and it was also the return of several other characters from the original show, as well as being the last series that Ben Small would provide the voice for Thomas. Okay, so Andrew Brenner impressed us classic Thomas fans with Series 17, so would he surprise us again with Series 18? Well, let's take a look. Well, a majority of the episodes are really to show us some of the classic characters, as Andrew Brenner wants to focus on the classic characters from the show. And others are there to introduce some new characters like Samson and the slip coaches, and the grumpy old passenger and the Welsh birdwatcher who pulled the emergency communication cord. But like I said, most of the episodes are just focusing on the classic characters, since that's really Andrew Brenner's main focus of the series. So let's talk about the newcomers. Samson is a dignified tank engine with a lot of pride for the work he does. He rarely asks for help or advice to avoid seeming inexperienced around the island. He's also quite arrogant, believing himself to be the island's strongest tank engine. So he's kinda like James, but not quite so vain. And like I said, we also get the reintroduction of some of the classic characters, such as Oliver, Toad the Brake Van, and Duncan the grumpy narrow gauge engine. Now, when I first heard that Duncan was returning, I was absolutely thrilled. I was thinking to myself, they finally brought back Duncan. Now all they have to do is bring back Duke and Bertram. Though that would probably be likely, since Andrew Brenner loves the classic series, I'm assuming. I just found it a great surprise to see Duncan return, since we hadn't seen him since Series 12. So I thought this was a really great return for him. And his first episode when he encounters that grumpy passenger was just the perfect return for him. I mean, I just find it so blimmin' hilarious to find Duncan dealing with a grumpy passenger, and who is surprisingly even more grumpy than Duncan is. That was just hilarious.
Why do people always think it's me who's always grumbling? I mean, I've never grumbled in my life. Me, grumbling? Don't think so.
Along with Duncan, we also get the return of Oliver the Great Western Engine, and Toad the Brake Van, and even Henrietta gets to talk again after all these years. And I'll admit, it is awesome to hear her talking again after so long, but did they really have to give her a face? And remember Timothy and Mariam from Tale of the Brave? Well, in this series we get a bigger glimpse into their personalities, like a lot of the other one-time characters we see in specials. And by one-time I mean the ones who the focus of the story aren't on. But I really do enjoy their personalities, and Marion is one of those characters from media that makes me laugh a few times. She's very enthusiastic and likes to think of herself as well informed, and is happy to share her knowledge. She's very talkative and loves to tell stories of her discoveries. However, not all the engines prefer to stick around and hear her stories. So she's kinda like the little Miss Chatterbox of Sodor. Timothy is friendly, helpful, and loves being really useful, but can also be naive and gullible. And the slip coaches are interesting characters too, even though we don't really get much of a glimpse into their personalities in their first appearance. But I hope that Andrew Brenner does have big plans for them, since I think we may have seen them a few times, well, characters like them in the Railway series, but were never introduced to the TV series. So, yeah, cool characters that I think Andrew Brenner should focus on next year. So how does Series 18 hold up? Well, like Series 17 is not as good as the classic series, but I honestly wouldn't expect any series to be. But to its credit, it is better than Series 17. Like, there's lots more episodes that are better than the Series 17 episodes. And the animation is really good too. Like, I love how there's so much improvement in the animation as time has gone by, especially with those sunset moments. It just looks awesome to me. And it's really nice to see certain areas from the classic series that have been gone for ages, such as pretty much every location from the narrow gauge railway that we all recognise. And if I had to pick some favourite episodes, one of them would definitely be Old Reliable Edward, as Gordon teases Edward for being old and unreliable, as he says. But when Gordon sees some red trousers blowing on the tracks, he mistakes them for a danger flag and stops, ending up stuck on this hill again. And after Gordon not thanking Edward for helping him up the hill, Thomas and Edward decide to teach him a lesson. and the way they teach him a lesson just cracks me the fuck up, especially with how they own him at the end.
Hello, Gordon. Have you given up following Thomas already?
Thomas tricked me, Edward. He went too slow.
Oh, dear. But I must say, you don't seem very reliable. Always getting stuck on your own hill.
Wait, Edward! You need to give me a push.
Oh, but I didn't think you needed any help from me. After all, I'm so old and unreliable.
I'm sorry, Gordon, but I think you just got owned there. Not So Slow Coaches is another one of my favourite episodes too that makes me laugh every now and then. Like, I love how Thomas teases Annie and Clabber whenever they complain about him going too fast or too slow. Then the two coaches find themselves covered up to Caitlin by mistake, so they get a taste of what it's like to go really fast. That was just hilarious. And the episode Thomas and the Emergency Cable kind of reminded me of an annual story called James's Traffic Jam, which, as you may remember, I based on one of my TTTE episodes.
You evil foreigners.
Because it's another one of those moments where the TV series talks about railway realism, such as the fines for pulling the emergency communication cable at the wrong time. Duncan and the Grumpy Passenger is another one of my favourite episodes because it reintroduces us to Duncan. Missing Gator and Long Lost Friend are good episodes as well, because they're basically like mini sequels to Tale of the Brave, where Percy ends up missing Gator and then later on they reunite with each other. And I consider Duncan the Humbug to be one of my favourite Christmas related episodes in the TV series, as it takes another twist on the whole Scrooge story, where Duncan is the Scrooge this time. And it just cracks me up to see him trying not to grumble through the whole day just to get his new coat of paint. It's very obvious that Andrew Brenner's got his work cut out for him as the head writer of the series. And I'm glad that he's the head writer, since he used to write a lot of the old 90s magazine Thomas stories. And some of his stories were even inspirations for some of the Series 3 episodes. And if you don't believe me, check it out on Thomas Wiki. And my only nitpick for Series 18 is the fact that Rosie hasn't had that much screen time to herself. Surprised? And I know I've gone on about this in the past reviews I've done for Thomascember, but I really do think that Rosie deserves more screen time to herself. Even a few episodes to herself as well. And as I said before, she's one of the few new series characters who's not boring. I enjoy her personality, and it may come as no surprise that she's one of my favourite characters from Thomas, as was proven with my TTTE series, as I have her as one of the main characters, as well as Thomas's love interest. So Andrew Brenner, if you're listening to this, then please give Rosie some more screen time to herself. I mean, back in Series 17 she got that permanent lamp on her funnel. I mean, that was a cool addition, so why couldn't you have given her more screen time to herself, or even an episode to herself? And I know I've gone on and on and on about this, but she really is one of the characters I really do enjoy who wasn't from the Railway series. So yeah, definitely give her more screen time, she deserves it. And perhaps bring back Murdoch and Ferguson as well. Oh, and Molly, definitely bring back Molly. So even though Series 18 isn't exactly as good as the classic TV series, and to be honest I don't really expect any new series to be, it is at least entertaining. It's got well written episodes, it's got very interesting characters, and it was nice to see some old characters returning. So it's nice to see the TV series going back on the right track, no pun intended. And I really hope Andrew Brenner writes more episodes like this, and perhaps they could bring back some of the classic writers like Brian Truman, who wrote Twin Trouble. I personally think that it would be good for them to bring back some of the writers from Series 6, since a majority of the Series 6 episodes were pretty enjoyable. But for now, Series 18 is a definite improvement from Series 17, and definitely from Series 8 to 16. Series 18 is definitely better than Series 17. With its new stories, new characters, reintroduction of classic characters. So it's got pretty much everything for every fan of the series, old and new. So if you haven't seen Series 18 yet, definitely check it out. You'll get a lot of laughs with some of the episodes, and you'll be really glad to see some classic characters returning, as well as some new interesting characters.